So we have been going through the Emacs manual, and we have covered quite a bit of ground here. And the last session we stopped with the chapter 10 help summary. So today we're going to resume this chapter, and we're going to start from documentation for a key, and we will go through the manual today. I will try to finish this. Let me paste the link to this documentation. It's from emacsdocs.org, so you can follow along using this. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat. I also make this video available later on my YouTube channel, so you can also browse through it and try it on your free time. I'm also running the run key, so you know exactly like what keys I'm typing. So with that, let's get started here. I'm going to be running Emacs from the X11, unlike previous sessions where I was running it from the terminal with Emacs-NW. So let's start with the documentation for a key. This is where we need to resume from today's session. So the help commands to get information about a key sequence, you can either use Control H C, which is describe key briefly, or Control H K, which is describe key. So let's see an example here. So I'm on Emacs 27.1, right? So let's do Control HC, and I'm going to say Control P. Okay, so it says Control P runs the previous line in the echo area, right? Now similarly, I can do Control HK, and prompts for describe the following key. So I just press Control P again. It opens a bigger buffer, a separate buffer, the health buffer with more information. Okay, so this says that Control P runs the previous line, which is an interactive compile list function. Right? Okay. Now Control H capital K key will display the section of the Emacs manual for the key. Now one thing that I didn't have installed in the previous stream sessions is that the info manuals are not getting installed. So there is a separate package on Ubuntu which we need to install. So let me type that command in the chat. Apparently the GNU free documentation license is not compatible with the Debian software guidelines, and hence you have to install this additional package to get the info manuals. Right. So the command to, or the package name to be installed is here. You need to do apt install. I mean, of course you have to do a sudo apt install, which is the recommended practice. And it's called Emacs common non-DFSG. So we have to do sudo apt install Emacs common non-DFSG. So this will basically give you the info manuals for you to try and refer to them. Okay. Right. Let's continue here. So Control HC, Control HK and Control H capital K, they work for any sort of key sequences including function keys, menus and mouse events. I am not going to do mouse events here again because we want to focus on keyboard commands. So here they give an example that Control HK can allow you to select a menu from the menu bar to view the corresponding documentation for the specific command. And Control HC will basically ignore mouse movement events. Now Control HW and the command will list the keys that are bound to the command. So it will be displayed in the echo area. So let's say I do Control HW tab, it shows me a list of commands here. Right. I can do Control HW describe key, enter. It says describe key is on Control HK, okay, in the echo area. So if it says the command is not on any key, that means that you must use alt text to run it. So Control HW basically runs the command whereas. Let's move on to the next one, help by command or variable name. So Control HF function enter, which is describe function, which displays the documentation for the list function in a window. So we've already seen this before. Control HF auto fill mode enter. So it gives help buffer, it gives the information in autofill mode. Again, commands are just list functions, and this is the only way to get the documentation of a command that is not bound to any key. Okay. Control HF is also useful for list functions that you define in a list program. So when we learn Emacs Lisp and you want to customize and write your own functions, you can also use Control HF on that. If you type Control HF enter, it will describe the function called by the innermost Lisp expression in the buffer around the point. Suppose I have in a buffer like this, right? I can do Control HF because it goes back to the same entry here. But if the cursor is at a point in, say, some program that you're writing or documentation, and if you want to quickly go to the definition in the manual to open the help buffer, you can actually use Control HF. Now Control HF is also useful if you want to verify that you spell the function name correctly. Okay. If the mini buffer prompt for Control HF shows the function name from the buffer as a default, it means the name is defined as a list function. Of course, anytime, like in any buffer, you can press Control G to cancel the command. Similarly, we have seen Control HV, which is describe variable, but it is used for describing Lisp variables instead of Lisp functions. Its default is the list symbol around the point if there is a name of a defined Lisp variable. Okay. Suppose I have something like, say I go to a scratch buffer and say suggest key bindings, Control HV, describe variable, suggest key bindings. It opens this variable value definition, how to customize it and so on. Okay, so you can actually get this from a specific point. Good. So, help buffers that describe Emacs variables and functions, they normally will have hyperlinks to the source code. So, suppose I do Control H F autofill mode, right. So, there is a link to the source code. If I hit the link and the cursor is there, the point is there, if I hit enter, it actually goes to the code where the function is defined. So, it is define minor mode, autofill mode. You can actually go and look into the source code as well. So, to find a commands documentation in a manual, you have to use Control H, capital F, which basically runs info go to Emacs command node. Okay. Let's close this one. So, we do Control H, capital F. Let's say we want to find information for forward character, right. So, in the manual, it has gone to the place where we have the documentation for forward character. Just Control F, move forward one character, right. Right. You can also use Control H O, describe symbol, but it is used to describe any symbol, a function, a variable, or a face. If the symbol has more than one definition, like it has both the definition as a function and a variable, then this command will show the documentation, all of them one after the other. Okay. Right. Let's continue, move on to the apropos section. Now, the apropos commands ask what are the commands for working with files. So, you can specify a apropos pattern, which is either a word or list of words or a regular expression. The following apropos commands read an apropos pattern in the mini buffer, or search for items that match the pattern and display the results in a different window. Okay. So, let us go through these examples here. So, we already seen Control H A. So, let us say I do Control H A and I do say file, enter. So, this gives me all the commands operating on file, right. Buffer, menu, toggle, files only, abbrev, edit, save to file, add file local variable, and so on and so forth. So, when you specify more than one word in the apropos pattern, a name must contain at least two of the words in order to match. So, let us say I do Control H A, kill, back, backward, behind, before, enter, right. It now tries to match all of these definitions here, right. Backward kill paragraph, backward kill sentence, backward kill S expression, and so on. Now, alt text apropos of course search for functions and variables. Both interactive and non-interactive functions can be found. So, let us say I do alt text apropos, I search for window. So, it tells me all the labels with window. So, variable, buffer, menu one window is a command, and so on. It is buffer, view, menu view, other window. Okay. There is also alt text apropos user option. So, search for user customizable variables. So, with the prefix argument you can search for non-customizable variables as well. So let's try that. Alt X apropos user option. Let's say we search for buffer. So here you have different buffer variables: buffer menu, buffer size width, menu mode width, name width, size width, and so on. Okay, so you have all of these variables related to buffer listed here. Now you can also search for variables. So that is Alt X apropos variable. Let's say I want to search for variables, say mode. So you have different mode variables here: buffer menu mode, abbreviation table, buffer menu mode width, and so on. Now there can be local variables as well. So you would use specifically apropos local value to search for buffer local variables. Now with the prefix argument you can search for customizable variables only. So let's try for apropos local value, say for line. So this tells all the local variables, which is basically the font lock entries here, right? Now Control H D, you can use a regular expression, search for functions and variables whose documentation strings match the specified pattern. So let's say Control H D, I ask for regex. So this gives documentation for regexp code, optional group, character set, and so on. Okay, so this refers to the apropos documentation. So there is one exception here: apropos variable without a prefix argument will always search for all variables, no matter what the value of apropos do all is. If the variable apropos do all is set to true, is given here, right, most apropos commands will behave as if they have been given a prefix argument. And all apropos commands except apropos documentation will list the results in alphabetical order. If the variable apropos sort by scores is true, and these commands will instead try to guess the relevance of each result and display the most relevant ones first. Of course, the apropos documentation command lists its results in order of relevance. In order to list them in alphabetical order, you need to change the variable apropos documentation sort by scores to nil. There is some customization of variables here, but you get the gist of the different apropos commands that you can use here. Let's move on to help mode commands. What you can run in the help buffer. So most of the commands that you use in the view mode can also be used in the help buffer. Space, for example, scrolls forward. Del or backspace will scroll backward. So let's try that. Control H F, say autofill mode. We have the help buffer here. So I can do space. There's a small content, so there's nothing to scroll forward. But you can use some other characters like tab will move to the next links, right? You can do shift tab, it will go back to the previous links. if you hit enter, it will follow that link, right? It goes to the actual definition of autofill mode in the simple.el source file, right? Now, if you use Control C, it will basically run this help follow symbol, which means it will show all the documentation about this symbol at the point. Similarly, you can do Control C, Control F to go forward to the next help topic, and Control C, Control B go back to the previous help topic. So these are like quite intuitive, right? Let's try this. So Control C, Control C. Now we are in autofill mode. Let's say I want to see what is in autofill function. Control C, Control C. So now it goes to the autofill function definition, right? The help buffer. Now I want to go back, right? So Control C, Control B. Now I'm back in the autofill mode help. So you can keep like switching back and forth within the help topics. It's quite useful. So help buffer can contain hyperlinks. We have seen this, info manuals links, source code definitions. We've seen that also, and also URL web page links. Okay, so you can it will open the browser and you can view specific links, external links, and the browser setting is defined in browse URL. That's what is given here. One important point to remember here is the tab and shift tab are cyclical. So once it reaches the end of the buffer, it will go back to the beginning of the buffer and so on. Good. Let's continue here. Next is keyword search for packages. So most optional features in Emacs are grouped into packages. So Emacs has several hundred built-in packages, and we can also install external packages from third-party repositories. We can customize and so on. For finding the list of package keywords together with the description, we can use Control HP. This makes it easier to find the packages. Let's try this. Control HP. These are a list of packages, built-in packages. We have like calendar, we have faces, we have games, hardware, and so on. Right. Most packages are associated with one or more keywords based on what they do. And Control H capital P. This will prompt for the name of the package, and it will display a help buffer describing the attributes and features of the package. So let's try that. Control H capital P. Let's say ask for the battery package, and so you see that package battery is built in. This is present in multiple operating systems and some information about it. Okay. What about international language support? I think we've already seen this before. So for information on a specific language environment, so we can type Control HL, which is describe language environment, Control H capital L, right. So this current environment. So note that I'm using the Emacs 27 version installed on Ubuntu. I've not done any customization. So here it gives sample text, input methods, character set, coding systems. Okay. Now the command Control HH will display the etc hello file, which demonstrates the various character sets on how to say hello in many languages. Let's try that. Okay. So this is a list of ways to say hello in various languages. So we have different Unicode support here in various languages. Nice. Now Control H capital I is describe input method, either a specified input method or the default input method. So Control H capital I, let's say I give Tamil Dwarak. So this gives the Tamil Dwarak keyboard layout which I had defined and contributed to the Emacs package, right? And all the keyboard layout and keys are given here. Of course, you can also ask for the coding system, just Control H capital C, Control H capital C, which is describe coding system. So I can ask for UTF-16, for example. So it gives the type, which character set it follows, and so on. Of course, apart from these, there are other help commands. Let's go through them. Control H I it runs the info program, which has the structured documentation files. So Control H I, since we had referred to the forward character, the cursor is in this section of the info manuals. Okay. Now you can do Control H4I. It does the same thing, but it opens the info manual in a separate window. H4I. Okay. So I can go back to the top of the info manual, right? Okay. The H after entering info is to run the tutorial on using info. So Control H I, H, it goes to the section where it teaches you how to use the info manual. If you want, you can go through this tutorial as well, but we are going through the full Emacs manual, so it should be redundant. Now with the numeric argument n, Control HI will select the info buffer n. So you could have like multiple buffers, different sections of the info manuals open in multiple buffers, so you can switch to the respective buffers. Useful to browse multiple info manuals simultaneously. Now if you specify just Control U as the prefix argument, Control HI prompts for the name of the documentation file. Okay. Suppose you don't want to use the built-in manuals, you have your own manual that you want to refer to. So Control U, Control HI. So it will basically in the echo area it prompts me for a location to open the info file. Of course, we have seen the help commands Control H capital F and Control H capital key. They straight away go to the specific info section for the function and key respectively. Now when editing a program, if you have a info version of the manual for a programming language, you can use Control H capital S to find the entry for a symbol as a keyword, function or variable in the manual. Okay, this again depends on the major mode that you are using. So let's say I do Control H S and look for info lookup symbol. So So it goes to the corresponding entry in the info manual, right? Of course, if you are not sure what you typed, you can always use Control H L. It will tell the last 300 input keystrokes and the commands that were invoked. So these are the commands that I typed. Of course, you can also review the recent echo area messages using Control H E, which basically runs view echo area messages. Right, Control H E, and yeah, it displays the buffered messages where all the messages are kept. Control HM is used for describe mode, displays documentation on the current major mode, the commands and features in the mode, and also the key bindings. So Control HM, so we are in Lisp interaction mode, the keys and their binding, minor modes, and so on. Right. Control H small b describes the bindings, and Control H small s will describe the syntax. We have seen that also earlier. Control H B gives all the key bindings, key translations, and the corresponding bindings, major mode bindings, and so on. We can do Control H S, just syntax table, the keys and the specific meaning in the syntax table, the explanation for each character syntax. You can get a list of subcommands for a particular prefix key by using Control H question mark or F1, which basically runs describe prefix bindings. So let's say I do Control U, Control X, Control H, right? So I'm getting all the key bindings for Control X as a prefix. Right. So a few prefix keys for which not all of these keys work. Those are they have their own bindings. So one of these prefixes is escape, because escape Control H is actually Control Alt H, which basically marks are different. But escape F1 and escape question mark will work fine. So if I do escape F1, right, it shows the major binding starting with escape. In my keyboard I have to do escape function F1 key to get it working, otherwise it maps to the volume settings. Alright. So apart from the built-in documentation and manuals, Emacs contains several files which describe various topics like copying conditions, release notes, instructions for debugging, reporting bugs, and so on. So we can actually get those help files also with Control H. So for example, Control H CC will display the copy and redistribute Emacs license information, which is the GNU General Public License version 3. Now if you want to have information on debugging Emacs, Control H, Control D is view Emacs debugging. So you can go through this document. Right. If you want to get information on external packages, like where to get external packages, you can do Control H, Control E. So it goes to the info manual with some references. If you want to see the Emacs frequently asked questions, you can do Control H, Control F goes to Emacs FAQ. Of course, if you want to get information on the GNU project, you can do Control H G, which basically should run describe GNU project. So this basically opens the browser for you. We earlier saw the browse URL command, so that basically opens the browser and opens the GNU project page. You can also browse pages in Emacs. We'll look at that later. Now, if you want to know information about the printed copies of Emacs manuals, it's nice to keep a hard copy for reference. You can do Control H, Control M. So they also sell hard copies which you can buy, and the contact for the same is given here. If you want to know more about the news features in this version of Emacs, Control H, Control N. History of user visible changes. This is Debian Ubuntu specific. It's listed here. If you want to know how to order or download the latest version of Emacs, you can do Control H, Control O. So the Emacs availability version is listed here. And if you want to know about current problems and workarounds, the list is given in Control H, Control P. So some known bugs and issues, after failures are given here. Or if you want to contribute to Emacs, there's a list, Control H T, the to-do list is available. Let's try that command here again. We have to do Control H, Control T, T. Okay, that's a to-do list. Because I'm using stump WM Control T maps to the window manager and not to Emacs, so I had to do Control T, T again. So this shows a to-do list. Otherwise, it just swaps the other window. And if you want to see the warranty, is Control H W. Okay. Or the absence of warranty for Emacs. So it's describe no warranty. So the last section is the help on active text. Active text is text that does something special in response to mouse clicks. Okay. Or when you hit enter. So this will include hyperlinks in Emacs buffers as part of the mode line. On some graphical displays, as well as some text terminals which support mouse tracking, moving the mouse will show some help text, which is tooltips, right? Like this tooltips here, you can see. So generally, I don't use this menu bar, so there's an option where you can say don't display the menu bar. On terminals that don't support mouse tracking, you can display the help text for the active buffer text at a point by typing Control H dot. This basically will run display local help and will show the help text in the echo area. To display the help text automatically whenever it is available at a point, you can set the variable help at point display when idle to true. There is some key shortcuts which you can set if you want a more intuitive user experience. Right. So this completes the help chapter. Let me share the link to the YouTube channel where I'll make this recording available. I'll also share the GitHub repo where the notes from today's session are pushed. And so tomorrow we have this Emacs APAC meeting, so feel free to join this. Let me paste this link as well. So it's at 2 o'clock Indian Standard Time, but feel free to join and attend this session. So in the next session, next Friday, we will go through the mark-in region. We'll start with this, but please try all of these shortcut commands. Go through the video again, try it yourself, and let me know if you have any issues. And I'll see you again next week, and we'll start with the mark-in region chapter 11. With that, let me stop the recording.